Okay, there we are. Thank you. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday night meeting of the.
The only, oof, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Quasi. I just don't have the timing cards or anything for your time as the timer.
Okay. Um, we'll come to that in just a second. So you don't have the cards and you're not set up on your computer to do the background.
Right.
Okay. Well, here's a thought. If you can be timer and you might just want to give a verbal 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and be verbal.
I can do that.
It's a little older fashioned, but it can be effective, and you can still do the timer.
I can do that.
Well, great. We'll adapt. Okay, well, welcome everybody to our Thursday night Vision Masters Toastmasters meeting. And I just want to say good to see some faces here that I haven't seen in a week or two as we move out of spring towards summer. And for several of us, we are experiencing that presage of summer with the temperatures we're dealing with right now. So anyway, so that's the welcome. And actually, we do have some people who might be showing up as guests, but you've been here so many times. We just consider you a member, and all that that's lacking in that officially is the fiscal exchange. But I'm sure we can have that happening at some point.
Cassandra, I emailed you the virtual background for the timer cards if you want to or can use them. Yellow, green, and red.
Can I use them on? I won't be able to use them on my phone though. My
Oh, yes, on the phone.
Oh, okay.
That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, these
But thank
phones
you.
these phones do an awful lot, but sometimes you run into real how should we say limitations, that's the word.
Yeah.
So Henry,
Limitation.
can you make me a co-host, please?
Just a second here. But let's do. There we are. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So welcome everybody, and we've got some interesting speeches tonight. I am definitely looking forward to hearing from the speeches. Um, Today's May 30th. And what that means is we're almost out of the month of May, and May was mental health and mental health awareness month. But given that some, what we hear, see in the news, etc., in terms of folks sometimes not being the best in terms of how they handle stress, it's something that's not just a 1 month thing, but all the time, but it's highlighted this month. The theme for tonight's meeting is women standing up for mental wellness. And one of our first speakers will be addressing that. But before she talks, I'm going to call on our general evaluator, Mike Pruitt, who will talk about his task and members of his team. Mike.
Thank you, Kawaza. So, as general evaluator, I am supposed to manage the evaluation portion of the meeting, and at the beginning of the meeting, introduce some of the important members of the team. And one of our most important members is the timer. Cassandra, can you explain the timer's role, please?
Yes. As the timer, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
As the timer, it is my duty to time the speeches of each of our speakers tonight. The speeches, I believe, are going to be 5 to 7 minutes. Is that correct? I don't
Yes,
know.
I think so,
5
yeah.
to 5 to 7 minutes. And we will start the speeches out at green. It will be what? 7, 5, wait, 5.
5 at green.
5 at green. And uh is it 3 at green?
Nope, 5 at green,
5
6
at
at
green
yellow,
and 6 at yellow.
and
And 7 at red. And you
yes,
have 30 seconds to wrap up. Okay, and it's back to you.
oh, tell us about the time for the table topics. That's a different time.
Okay, so we're gonna go through table topics and then we're going to go the evaluations, correct? Those two. What else?
Exactly.
Okay, so for table topics, we have total 3, is it 3 or 2? 3?
1 to 2 minutes.
1 to 2 minutes, and so it will be 2 at gr- at green, and
No, actually, it'll be green at 1 minute
green at 1 minute,
and yellow
one and a half, one
yellow at
and
half minutes. Yep,
yellow at 1.5, and uh at 2 it would be red.
exactly.
And then you have 30 seconds to wrap up.
Yes,
I believe so.
yes.
Then we have the table topics. You have that. There's one more.
The evaluations.
Evaluation of speeches. At that point, the evaluator has 2 minutes to evaluate our speakers.
2 to 3 minutes. Yes,
Is it 2 to 3?
2
2
to
to
3.
3 2 to 3 minutes to evaluate the speaker. So there's 3,
Green at 2.
green at 2. What's the other one, Kwanzaa? I'm
Yellow at 2.5
yellow at 2.5,
and
and 3 at
is red.
red. And you have 30 seconds to wrap up. So those are the timing for all 3 different categories.
Thank you, Cassandra, and thank you for agreeing to jump in at the last minute to fill in that role.
Not a problem. I just wish that I had those timings better, but that's okay. We're here to learn.
Okay, the second person in our evaluation team is the counter grammarian, which I believe that's the role I'm going to take. Is that correct, Kawaza?
Yes, you are a grammarian. Do you have a word of the day?
I do have a word of the day. The word of the day is survival. I'm going to
Ah,
put this in the chat.
thank you.
Definition is the state or fact of continuing to live or exist, typically in spite of an accidental ordeal or difficult circumstances. The animal's chances of survival were pretty low. So survival is, everybody try to use survival in your speeches. Now, as a counter, I will note words and sounds that are used as a crutch or pause filler by anyone who speaks. During the meeting, and I will listen for overused words, including and, well, but, so, and you know. I will also listen for filler sounds, including and I'll also note when a speaker repeats a word or phrase. And at the end of the meeting, I'll report the number of times each speaker used these expressions. As grammarian, it's my responsibility to pay close attention to all speakers, listening carefully to their language usage. I'll take note of any improper language as well as any outstanding words, quotes, sayings, or thoughts. I love keeping track of the gems that I hear from you all. And as as grammarian, it's my duty to introduce the word of the day, which is survival. And I think that's it for now. So back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. And we will hear from you and members of your team later on in our meeting. I would just like to say at this point that generally Toastmaster meetings have a section where there are prepared speeches, as we have tonight, 2 persons giving speeches that they prepared for, and those are timed at a particular rate. Another part of the meeting is the opportunity for people to speak impromptu, spontaneously, off the cuff, as it were. This is called table topics. And it's a part of the meeting that I particularly like, and because it allows an opportunity for anyone who might be considering speaking, stepping up and saying something to do so with addressing one of the table topics. I think it's a part of a Toastmaster meeting or Toastmasters that sometimes may not get the full credit that should be given to it in terms of being a space where those persons who are particularly new to Toastmasters and want to try to start speaking can really step up and start to shine. And the third part of the meeting will be the evaluation part. That will be led by Mike Pruitt, our general evaluator. We'll get a report from members of his team, and he will give us an overall evaluation of the meeting itself. Having said that,
Well, can you repeat that? Who am I supposed to evaluate?
no, you're going to evaluate the meeting.
I'm going to evaluate you
No, the meeting.
or the meeting. Okay, good. Thank you.
Sorry. Let me boost my mic here a little bit. Yes, no, you're not evaluating a person, you're evaluating the meeting. So we have 2 speakers tonight. Our first speaker is DeMarie Shy King, and she will be speaking from the pathway with the title of Managing Stress, Learning to Pivot. This is a 5 to 7 minute speech from the dynamic leadership pathway, negotiating the outcome. DeMarie, hello? DeMarie Shy King has been very active with this club, particularly this year. She is Toastmaster of the Year, drumroll, for Leaders Worldwide 23-24. And she has also been very instrumental in, I would say, being a club coach, even though that's not the official title, but she's definitely been one who has guided and steered and provided leadership for this club. DeMarie Shy King brings a wealth of knowledge from her professional background. She's also CEO of an organization that deals with domestic violence. So she has experience in terms of mental health wellness. The title for her speech is Managing Stress, Learning to Pivot, DeMarie Shy King. DeMarie Shy King, Managing Stress, Learning to Pivot.
Has there ever been a time when you wondered, how am I going to get through the day? The stress level was so high, you were really off the chain. You had so many things that you had to maneuver through. You thought you were wearing so many different hats that you just couldn't do it all. Fellow Toastmasters, esteemed guests, that has happened to so many of us that somewhere along the way, it would behoove us to simply take a breath and just let yourself relax. But I want to take you back to the National Mall in Washington, D.C. The year was 1963. And the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was experiencing a special kind of stress. He was on the mall in Washington attempting to deliver a speech to 250,000 people. Imagine that. But as he spoke, the audience was milling about. They were talking, they weren't really paying him much attention. Can you imagine the amount of stress he felt at that moment? He came all the way to Washington. They had gathered all these people, and they weren't paying him any attention. However, a friend, a trusted friend, was standing across the podium watching him attempt to perform. And she too was experiencing a special kind of stress. This is my friend. I know he's not doing well. What should I do? She knew that she had to help. Mahalia Jackson then walked across the stage to where he was, taking advantage of and depending on the integrity that the two of them had for one another. So she leans over and whispers in his ear, "Tell him about the dream, Martin. Tell him about the dream." And all of a sudden, it was as if he could feel the stress being lifted from his shoulders, because he knew every time he gave his "I Have a Dream" speech, the audience listened. And the next words to come out of his mouth were, "I have a dream. I have a dream today." Immediately, a hush fell over the crowd. The stress that appeared to be existing among those 250,000 people instantly was squelched. They were patient. They were quiet. Obviously, they took a deep breath as well, because they began to give him their undivided attention. Dr. King's "I Have a Dream" speech went on to be recognized as the greatest speech that he ever gave. Had Mahalia Jackson not taken advantage of the integrity that existed between the two of them and walked over and just simply said to him, "Tell him about the dream, Martin," and he was obedient. He knew that he was in a difficult situation. He could feel the stress. He was perspiring at places that he had not intended to, because he wasn't being heard by the audience. But once he changed his posture, shifted from one side to the other, and decided, "I'll talk about the dream." We need to understand that there's nothing wrong with making a pivot. We need to understand that sometimes a pivot is the best thing that we could do. If we're stuck, it doesn't hurt us to pivot. Take a new route. There's an old saying by Robert Frost that you may come to a divergent road where the paths lead left and right. You have to decide, which way are you going to go? You want to take the path that will offer you less resistance, less stress, and you want to take on the challenge and rise to the occasion. I assure you that in 1963 on the National Mall in Washington, Dr. Martin Luther King could feel the stress being released. He became energized. The absence of stress is energy, personal energy. He was able to take a deep breath and realize his dream of being able to reach the audience that was in front of him. Over 250,000 people were waiting to hear what he had to say. My advice or my suggestion to anyone who is stuck, first of all, pivot. Simply move about. Do something different. Try a new strategy. You're in control. And one of the things that I have found that definitely gives you a new sense of empowerment is just to take a deep, meaningful, therapeutic breath. And when you do that, not only do you pause, but you add fresh oxygen to the brain. And when you add fresh oxygen to the brain, you begin to think and speak with clarity. Reducing stress, meditation, yoga, exercise, and the little known powerhouse, drinking plenty of water. In the last days of May, and Mike Pruitt heard exactly what I said. He just took a huge sip of water. So he's attempting to reduce whatever stress he might have. But in these last 2 days of May, Mental Health Awareness Month, let's all take a deep breath. We can just breathe in right now and blow it out. It causes you to relax. Your blood vessels vasodilate, so they open up. But the bronchioles in your chest allow oxygen in and to the brain. If you find yourself stuck, make a pivot and manage your stress. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Dee Marie. Thank you for that inspirational speech that not only gave us an example of someone pivoting in a very visible position on a stage of international attention, but you also gave us some very good tips in terms of how we can handle the stress in the moment. And I really appreciate that. I'm going to ask our timer if you can give us 2 minutes. And during this time, I invite our attendees to send your comments and questions to Dee Marie directly in the chat,
Starting now.
starting right now.
Go.
Send her a question.
Minutes.
Thank you very much, Cassandra. Does anybody need more time? No? Okay, thank you, thank you. As I said, we have 2 great dynamic speakers tonight, and we are very fortunate to have Kari Kelley, Area D30 Director, as our second speaker. Kari, I do not have the information on your speech. If you sent that to me via email, I did not get that.
Sorry about that. Okay, so the title of my speech is called One Job. It's coming from Dynamic Leadership Level 1, Writing a Speech with Purpose.
Hey, thank you.
Oh, it's a 5 to 7 minute speech.
Okay. Writing a speech with purpose. That's a question. I'm just verifying.
Oh, yeah, that's the name of the speech from Pathways, Dynamic Leadership. The speech would be the Writing a Speech with Purpose, and my speech title is One Job.
From the pathways.
Dynamic Leadership is the
Dynamic
pathway.
leadership is the pathway.
Level
And
1.
it's a level 1 speech, and writing with
Writing
purpose.
Writing speech with purpose is the one. Yeah.
Kari Kelley, writing a speech with purpose from Dynamic Leadership Level 1. Writing a speech with purpose, Dynamic Leadership Level 1, Kari Kelley.
The title is One Job. Title of my speech is One Job. So, one job is important for the person. For if you have been created to do one thing, it's important that you do that one thing. I like to draw information from the elements when I talk about this speech. The elements, because the sun only has to shine. The rain only has to fall. The wind only has to blow. And the fire only has to burn. They all have just one job. But when you put them all together, they cause a process that will make a seed grow. And that seed will turn into whatever nature has placed in that seed for it to become what it is. Let's say it was the seed of a rose that was planted in the earth. That seed needs the sun to shine. It also needs the winds to blow. It needs the rain to fall. And the earth is where all the nutritional value comes from to feed that seed in order for it to grow into its rose. There is a fifth element that I will call source. S as in Sam, O-U-R-C-E. And it is the source that causes the sun to shine, the wind to blow, the rain to fall, the fire to burn, and the earth to show the nutritional value of the seed, that gives the seed its nutritional value. Therefore, you need the source. I will demonstrate what the source is like through my glove here. It's a really long glove, and it also serves as my zebra print addiction. I'm addicted. It's a sickness. I should go to rehab. So this glove has one job. This job is to protect the hand, but it can't do that until the source, the hand, goes into the glove. Now the glove can do its job. It's doing the job, protecting the hand. And it has the animation of the hand. The source is what makes the animation happened with the 4 elements. So it has the one job. Do you have one calling on your life that is driving everything else you do? We heard a speech about Martin Luther King, and his job was to speak truth to power to gain civil rights for African Americans in this country. And he was driven to do that by the source. And he might have had people around him that had other ideas about how he should go about doing that job, what he should and shouldn't say, and when he should and shouldn't speak, and all of this. But he never let that get in the way of him doing the one job. So it's the same with the elements. You never hear the sun complaining about how hard the wind was blowing that day. You never hear the rain complaining about how come it never gets to rain when the sun is out, except for when it does. They don't get into quarrels about who's got more time in the sunlight. They just do their one job. Have you let something else get in the way of the job that you were created to do? If so, this would be the perfect time for me to steal some pointers from the first speech. Take a deep breath. That is the air element working with your breath to give you a fresh start.
5.
When you cry, that is the source of water, sharing your level of emotion. If you are in action, that is the fuel that keeps your fire burning. Action as in exercise, or action as in doing the work to fulfill the thing that you are here to do. Shine, bloom where you're planted, or shine, tell your story, do the work that you are here to do on every level that is possible, and don't let anything stand in your way. That is the nutritional value that you have. All of that wisdom that you are here to share, all of that energy that you are here to expend doing the job that is your purpose to do. And when you plug into your trusted source that will animate everything you need to do, you will have everything that you need to be the rose that you were planted to be, or the carnation, or the speaker, or the advocate, or the lawyer, the doctor. Whatever it is that you were created to do, that's one job that you have to do. So, in closing, take advice from the elements that do their job no matter what else is going on. The sun always shines, the rain always falls, the wind always blows, and the earth is always full of the nutrients that it needs to feed the planet. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you for that inspirational speech. That was very good. We had a speech indicating that we all have a purpose, some one thing. And I'm sure that another speech Kari Kelley may give might give us details on how to discover what that one thing is for each of us. So thank you very much. Madam Timekeeper, can you give us 2 minutes so we can share our comments, questions with Kari in the chat, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Two.
Thank you very much. Does anybody need any more time? Does anybody need any more time? I'm not seeing any indications. Very good. Now we come to a fun part of the meeting. Table topics. As I mentioned at the start of the meeting, table topics is an opportunity for everyone to participate, having the opportunity to give an impromptu speech, speech off the cuff on a topic that will be introduced by the table topic master. Our table topic master for tonight is Henry Cartwright. I'm going to call Henry to the virtual lectern and have him start the fun.
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, I've got some table topics questions ready, and yeah, I think hopefully we can have some good table topic speeches tonight. And so since everyone I see, all the people here tonight are I would call regulars. So yeah, I'll ask for any volunteers. Is there anyone who wants to speak or wants to the first question? I see. Oh, I see Lisa. Okay. Lisa, the first question, let's see, I have for you is what book have you reread, or has there been a book in your life that was so impactful for you that you reread it? And if not, are there any books that you would like to reread?
So that's a great question. Thank you, Hank. I really like Malcolm Gladwell. I find the way that he uses his stories in order to share a point of view is extremely helpful, and I've reread all of his. So the one that I really like the best is Blink. And Blink is all about making very fast decisions. And the stories have to do with all kinds of slices of life. There's one story that was particularly interesting about a professor who came into the class, and right away, it was a study, and right away the students needed to answer the question of whether they thought he was going to be a good professor. And they answered it right away. They handed their answers in. At the end of the term, they re-asked the question, and they found that the answers that he gave, that the students gave within the first 10 seconds, were answers that held up for the length of the semester. There's something magical that happens when we meet someone, or we see something, or we witness something, and they find that there's a sixth sense almost, where you just have that gut reaction right away that it's either going to be good or it's not going to be good. And somehow making that decision very quickly enables us to survive. And many of us who struggle with survival, it's so important that we learn to trust our first impression, our first decision. And in fact, when you watch a game show like Millionaire, I love that game show. So many times, if they rethink their answer is going to be wrong. If they go with that first answer, it seems that they do better in winning the game and in answering the question correctly. And time again, it seems that they'll say an answer, they'll change their mind, and then they're going to be wrong. So my takeaway for this table topic is to go with your gut instinct and to practice the art of survival by trusting yourself and trusting the signals your body is giving you as to whether it's going to be a good experience or whether you really should question that experience. At the end of the semester, the students were in sync with that first impression, and he has story after story where he's showing that those decisions are generally right. So I would very strongly recommend you read or listen to the stories of Malcolm Gladwell and take to heart the lessons he is teaching. I rest my mic. Back to you, Master Table Topics Master.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, great. Yeah, that was great answer. Yeah, thanks you for the thoughts. And yeah,
I was waiting for the timer to give me a timing signal, and I realized I was the first person, but it may be helpful to others. I'm sure I went way over.
Oh,
Thank you, Hank.
okay. You wanted a signal. I was just gonna let you talk until you finish. It's 3:51 on there, but yeah.
Yeah, it would have been helpful to have 1.5, 2. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, yeah, thank you, Lisa. And
Yeah, I think I was disqualified, Hank.
I have a second question. Do we have any other volunteers? Or shall I pick someone?
I think you may have to call on someone.
Oh, okay.
I thought I saw Mike Pruitt's hand up when
Oh,
Lisa.
Mike, okay.
I forgot. Are you ready for a question, Mike?
You bet.
Okay. This question is, how many friends do you think is ideal for a person to have? And different people, some people are very outgoing. They have lots of friends. Some maybe only have a few close friends. What would you say is an optimal number of friends for a person to have? And do you have a
How
reason?
many friends is an optimal number for a person to have? That's a good question. I think it has something to do with how easy it is for a person to make friends. And we talked about this month is the Mental Health Awareness Month, and I've been thinking Freud did a lot to help people start working on their mental health, and there's something that's named after him called the Freudian slip, which they define as you say one thing but you mean another. But there's a stand-up comedian that says what it really should be is you say one thing and you mean your mother. Because mothers have a very powerful impact. When I was 3 years old, I woke up one morning and I started walking around the house calling for my mother. My parents had gotten divorced. My dad was gone. I had no idea. I only saw him twice in the next 8 years. And I was afraid my
158.
mother was going to disappear too. And lo and behold, she wasn't there. No one was home. And I was devastated. And then I saw on the kitchen table, there was a lunch pail, and I grabbed it. I remember she showed me I was supposed to walk down the street to the daycare lady. And I managed to do that. And about 50 yards door to door. But I was very fortunate because the daycare lady was very caring, loving person. And my mother had some anger management problems. And I never knew when I was home alone with her, I never knew when she was going to start screaming at me or hitting me with a metal tube or grabbing me by the hair and shaking me. And she got remarried a year ago. A year later, my stepfather was also a screamer and hitter, called me stupid idiot. But he taught judo. And when I was 8, I started taking classes from him. By the time I was 12, I was big enough and had enough self-defense reflexes and knew some judo throws that when my mother came running into the kitchen one day and grabbed me from behind, started shaking me by the hair, I threw her over my shoulder onto the kitchen floor. And that stopped the physical abuse. But from her, I had another 4 years to go from my stepfather, but I couldn't figure out why. I had a hard time holding a job. And about 50 years later, I finally figured out I had complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And the symptoms are fight and flight, fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And so whenever I got into a job after about a year, I either got fired or I quit, which was hard because I got married young and had 3, 4, 5 little kids to take care of. At one point, I took a class of family counseling, which recommended you get as many people from your family into a counseling session as possible because everybody holds a different piece of the puzzle. So I got my mother, my stepfather to come do a counseling session with me. And the first thing I asked my mother is, what happened when I was 3 years old and I got up and nobody was home? And she knew exactly what I was talking about. She says, well, I had to go back to work and I didn't want to wake you up early. So I showed you where to go in the morning and I went to work and you took care of yourself. And she didn't think there was any problem with it. And then my stepfather spoke up and said something that changed my life. He said, well, you know, your mother was arrested for child neglect. And then I said, well, it wasn't all me. The police thought it was a problem too. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Mike. Yeah, that was very, very insightful. Yeah, and thank you for being that open and honest with us about that. And now, do we have any other volunteers?
Dee Marie Shy King has raised her hand.
See, okay, I see the hand up. Okay, Dee Marie. My next question is, Do you think that friends can, do you think that people can be friends if they strongly disagree on politics? Oops, you're muted, DeMarie.
Even when I wasn't listening, I couldn't help but hear, never discuss politics and religion. If you want a good survival mode, if you want to survive with your friends, my advice is don't discuss religion and politics. You can listen to what the other person has to say, you can nod and smile, but don't get into a deep discussion of politics, especially if you and the other person don't agree. When those topics come up, the main concern is your survival. And you're not really concerned about whether you're right or whether you're wrong, or if you're going to be the winner or the loser. But think about it. How do politics actually affect our lives? And what can we do about it, even after you've made that vote? Once the person is in office, air goes, air goes. So the discussion of politics is fruitless to a large degree. But people can get so heated and so animated and so overpowering. It's not worth the effort. If you value the friendship and you understand survival, my suggestion is please do not venture down the road of discussing politics or religion. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, DeMarie. Okay, that was, do we have time for another question? Okay, then yeah, I've got more questions here. So do we have any more volunteers?
I can go if you guys aren't tired of hearing me already.
Kari Kelley, geez.
Okay, Kari Kelley. And my question for you is, how important is traveling for building maturity in a person, would you say?
How important is it? Okay, so let me start by saying I've been hardly anywhere, but I live here in California, Silicon Valley, and I didn't travel, but everywhere I went, I couldn't wait to get back home. So I won't say that actually doing the traveling is important, but you need to be aware of the other places that you could travel to. I think having the knowledge of other places, other cultures, other customs can be an important part of maturity so that when you encounter a person or a situation that is not familiar to you, you can navigate it. So if you can be aware of some of the things that are prevalent in other cultures, for example, if you visit someone who grew up in Japan, maybe, when you go to their house, you may need to know that they would prefer you take your shoes off. Now, if you're not aware of that custom, you may show up not being prepared to take your shoes off, and then you're going to have an awkward situation. So I don't think that actually doing the traveling is important, but I do believe that knowing other cultures and other customs is important for your maturity. Back to you, Table Topics Master.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much, Kari Kelley. Oh, I think we've. Oh, do we have time? Yeah, I have more questions. I've got. Yeah, I've got a few more. If we have time and people want to speak.
We have time for one more, and I'll do that one.
Okay. Waza. Uh, my question for you is, do you believe in luck? Some people say they don't believe in luck, and some people say they got lucky in life. What's your opinion about that?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Table Topics Master. Believe in luck. I believe that people create conditions, situations in which they can optimize whatever is happening to them. Whether it's a work situation, whether it's a situation, for example, people think of luck in terms of gambling. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Oh, he was lucky at cards, or etc. However, it is also known that there are people who devote quite a bit of attention to how those particular games of chance are conducted. These are people who it's like a science to them in terms of, for example, if you're playing poker, I'm not a poker player, but if you're playing poker, the cards are dealt, and there
Yeah.
are people who, as soon as the cards are dealt, know right away, this is what my hand is, and this is what I'm doing. And they are plotting a course, not just to survive in the game, but to master the game and be the winner. Whether it's that situation or those who gamble in other areas, or someone who looks at a particular situation, say the job market. They see what the trends are. They see what might be needed, what particular skills and or resources. How do I access these to create a situation that would enable me to be most profitable? So from my perspective, it's not so much, quote, blind luck, but persons who are assessing the situation, even the minute nuances of what they're involved in to create the best advantage for themselves. Back to you, Mr. Tabletop.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kawaza. Yeah, that was it. And thank you everybody for some some excellent answers and table topic speeches. That's my last question for tonight. And so back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Now I will call to the virtual lectern our general evaluator for tonight's meeting, Mike Pruitt, who will introduce the evaluators and members of his team.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Let me make sure I have the my people here. Okay, so I have for the evaluator, for the first evaluator, I have Lisa Thompson, who will be evaluating D. Marie Shai King. Lisa Thompson.
Well, I didn't know that I was doing this evaluation, but I'm happy to do an impromptu for Dee Marie. And what is this counting for? Or are you using this for a path, G? Can you unmute and tell me what you're using it for?
Dynamic leadership.
But
It's a level, it's a level 3.
right, and what's the project?
Positive negotiations.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I loved your speech. I loved how you started with stress and very quickly launched into I have a dream. And I loved your use of taking a breath and doing a pivot. So I thought I was expecting your speech to go in a completely different direction, but I really loved how you kept coming back to how Melvina, is that the correct name? Kept whispering in Martin's ear that he do his I have a dream speech. And it was very empowering to see how by pivoting we can be so much more powerful. And I thought that you looked really great on camera. You were well centered. You had good eye contact. You were always very clear. I think as a stretch goal, I keep saying this. I don't know that it's helpful to hear it, but I always feel personally that I like to know where a speech is going. So if there's a sentence in the beginning talking about how you're going to relate the things that the elements of your speech in drawing the conclusion that your speech draws, I think it helps to have that kind of a structure explained before doing the speech. And then following that structure and ending up by telling us how your speech was structured. I hope that makes some sense. But I really like to know that up front. And I think that this was another time where that would have been helpful. I really liked the repetition of taking a breath. So let me take a breath. Good job, T. Marie. Thank you.
Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Lisa. That was wonderful. Love the way you end it. Let me take a breath. Okay, so our next evaluator is D. Marie Shai King, evaluating Kari Kelley. D. Marie Shai King.
Kari Kelley. One job. Excellent. Loved your speech. Loved the presentation. You had me caught up when you started describing the elements, and you did them very slowly. The sun shines, the rain falls, the wind blows, and the fire burns. We got that. Then you gave an explanation of how all those things came together. There had to be a source, because even though you had the elements, without the source, there would be no action. The source is what pulls all the elements together and causes them to act. But you were also able to make an analogy between the elements and us as individuals. We need a source in order to take the action that's going to cause us to be as successful as we should be. You talked about crying as the waters that we use to express emotions. You talked about exercise being the fire that fuels our day-to-day activities. You said that we have to do the work that we are to do while here on the earth. Follow your passion, follow your purpose. You said, don't let anything stand in your way. Plug into your source. And then you said, what is your source? What would you consider as your source? You were meant to do one job, be the best that you can at that one job. Great analogy between the elements and the things that we need in order for us to do the work that the purpose for which we were placed on the earth. You said it might be to advocate on behalf of something or someone, that it might be to carry out a particular job, but we all have one job that causes us to grow as the elements cause the seeds to grow. Now, in all that you said about the elements and the fact that they needed to find a source, you never mentioned the soil. But everything that you said led me to visualize the source for the seed as the soil. That was the source. If the sun had shined, the rain had fallen, the wind had blown, and the heat from the day burned and scorched the earth, if the seeds were not planted in the soil, they still would not have grown. So I was able to visualize that with everything that you said, because you painted such a great picture. My stretch goal for you would be vocal variety. Oh my goodness, when you talked about the wind, you could have told us how the wind sounded as it blew, the whispering of the wind. Then you talked about fire. You could have emulated the crackling of the fire that would have given us another dimension to the elements. And the challenge that I have, and I know this is a challenge, but if you would learn the speech, which you seem to give with passion, you could stand and deliver it and tell the story. It's a wonderful story. I enjoyed it. I love your speaking, Kari. You know that. So thank you so very much. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Dee Marie, for that evaluation. Now I'd like to hear the report from the timer. Cassandra, can you give us a timer report?
Yes, thank you, Mike. For our fabulous speeches tonight, we have Dee Marie at 6 minutes and 33 seconds. Kari came in at 7 minutes and 24 seconds. Great job, ladies. Wonderful speeches tonight. And for table topics, our table topics were 3 minutes. And we have 3 minutes, and then there was 30 seconds over for so it's 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's for Lisa. Lisa came in at 3 minutes and 51 seconds. Great job, Lisa. Mike, 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Dee Marie, you came in at 1 minute and 32 seconds. Kari, 1 minute and 55 seconds. Kwaza, 2 minutes and 14 seconds. We had some wonderful impromptu speeches for the table topics. I believe everyone did a superb job, and I'd like to thank you. Back to you. Table topics.
Thank you,
best.
Cassandra. And again, we appreciate you jumping in at the last minute to take that role. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now I have the Counter Grammarian report, and amazing job on the counter. I got 1 off from Kari Kelley and 1 Lisa, I got 1 so. Dee Marie, I got 1 so. So, not bad. There was 3 people that used the word of the day, survival or survive. Lisa, Dee Marie, and Kwaza. Gems. There was lots of gems that I wrote down. Dee Marie, tell him about the dream, Martin. Take a deep, meaningful, therapeutic breath. Take a pivot and manage your stress. And Kelly, just 1 job. And I liked you talking about the sun. Speaking of the sun, why is the sun so bright? It has millions of degrees. Also, have you let something get in the way of your 1 job? Action is the fuel that keeps the fire burning. Lisa, Malcolm Gladwell, one of my favorite authors also. I love his outlier books. And while you were talking, I jumped around on my computer and I went to the library website and I downloaded 3 of his audiobooks. So I'm going to have that to listen to on Libby. If you haven't checked out Libby with the library, they have a great selection of audiobooks that you can download from the library for free. And I just downloaded 3 of them.
Wow.
About Mark. And so I'm going to listen to Blink. That's the one that she talked about. The learn to trust your first impression And what the impression that you come up with in the first 10 seconds is usually right. I like that. And Lisa, let me take a breath. And Dean Marie, stretch goals. And as an overall evaluation of the meeting, it was a wonderful meeting because of all the wonderful guests that came to help us. There were 7 people in the meeting and there was 2 members and 5 guests. And it was wonderful. Thank you so much for coming, all the guests. And please come again. I really enjoyed the meeting. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. And back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you for that general evaluation, Mike. And I would just like to echo that I enjoyed the meeting. I enjoyed the speeches, always learning something, which is, I never mention that, or rarely mention that when I talk about the speeches and what the speakers are saying, but I always learn something. So tonight I learned, heck, breathe, relax, and drink water. That's something we hear a lot. Even our doctor says, drink more water. So that can be something to keep in mind when we are preparing to do that one thing or to give that speech. So thank you very much. I also want to thank everybody who participated in the meeting. Our speakers, Kari Kelley, thank you for showing up. And even though you said, hey, I haven't spoken in a while, you stepped into that very well. So I want to thank you and just offer that, hey, if you ever feel like you are not speaking as often as you should, you know that there's a space here on Thursday evenings, 6:30, right here at Vision Masters. You can come join us. You're always welcome. Dee Marie Shy King, thank you for your speech. Inspirational and informational. Many people across generations have heard about the I Have a Dream speech. Yet, the information you shared that Martin Luther King Jr. was going to kind of sit on that speech. And I think that, you're sharing the stories that the most important thing that sometimes you may have to say, you may not say. And it can be an inspiration for us to, if you have thought about it, particularly if you're writing a prepared speech, go ahead and say it. Because there's something in you that said, this needs to be said, this needs to be heard. So I took that from your speech, that there's that little piece that if you went through this to create this, share it.
So can I say something, please? I have used the basics of that I Have a Dream speech, and I have 5 different derivatives, 5 different speeches that start out talking about Dr. Martin Luther King and the late Dr. Martin Luther King and the late Mahalia Jackson. I talk about them as it relates to integrity and their friendship. If he hadn't trusted her, he would never have listened to her. I talk about the hesitation that she felt. I talked about that speech for Women's History Month because I said the voice of a woman changed the course of history. And she did. Had she not said to him, tell him about the dream, he would never have given that speech. And I'm saying that to say that any speech that we have, if you think about it, the root of that speech can be applied to so many different things. And especially when you perfect a speech that you feel comfortable with, change it around, make it fit any scenario that you want it to. And that's what I've done with that. And I totally enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you. And just from what you just said there, that to me also adds another facet to what we are as Toastmasters all about. not just preparing a road speech, not, but what we bring in terms of sharing ideas, what we bring in terms of, to borrow the phrase from Kari Kelley, honing that one thing that we need to share with the world. There was a philosopher who said, you are here for a purpose. You are here to do something. And if it's that one thing, hone it, sharpen that craft, become very skilled at it. So thank you, everyone, for tonight's meeting. And I did have a theme for next week's meeting. Choose your adventure. We are getting ready to start summer. And for some folks, summer is a time of travel, either figuratively or literally, as an opportunity to get out of the routine. So our theme for next week is choose your adventure. And I'll start things off. I'll do a speech on that. And, oh, I'm sorry. I just got a little bit here in the chat. Lisa Thompson has reminded me she has something she wants to share with us for a few minutes. So let me step back. Lisa Thompson, you are in the spotlight at the virtual lectern.
Thank you, Kwaza. I'm going to keep this really short because I realize that we're past the time for stopping. But I did want to share with you all that I am the new PRM, the Public Relations Manager. And when I was the conference co-chair, what I did was to create a team. Our team had about 40 people on it. And we created an amazing first hybrid conference. So after Sally observed my leadership skills, she asked me to be part of the PR team. And I have put together 12 amazing people that include Dee Marie as podcast manager. And we're looking forward to making District 57 not only thrive, but shine and really rock on, because one of the problems that we have in this district is we're not visible. Our clubs are not visible and the district is not visible. And Dee Marie has a fabulous idea of hosting a lot of what she's going to be doing for the podcast on Clubhouse. That will help to make the district visible. We also invest heavily in Meetup, but Meetup is very underutilized. So we have a Meetup person, Shri Goodreddy, that is going to be leading our VPPR ambassadors in having Meetup for every club. We have amazing tech people. And I am just so thrilled and excited to be leading this team forward. We have everyone in place except for a few different roles. So we're still looking for Canva. We're looking for a social media person. We're looking for the chief of the VPPR ambassadors. So I envision that to be, we're going to invite the 100 VPPRs to be part of that ambassador team. We may not get full participation, but we're certainly hoping to get close to that. And it's just promising to be an amazing year of really working together and forging ahead to make this district so much better and to attract members from around the district and around the world. So I'm just thrilled to be in this position. I strongly encourage your club to pick an excellent VPPR that can work with my team. And we're looking forward to trainings so that every club is going to be amazing with doing the PR that you do as a club, and that you're going to be able to help our newsletter person, our podcast person, our Meetup person to help your club to thrive. Right now, you've got 6 people here, and including me, 7, and we want to triple that, at least triple it. So the only way we can do that is by increasing your membership, increasing your visibility, and even within the district, increasing your visibility by having you participate in the different ways that we're going to be doing the publicity. So that's what I wanted to say. Look forward to really big things happening for PR in District 57 this year, and be part of it, contribute to our success. Thank you.
Bite me.
What was that?
You're muted,
Uh,
Kawaza. Okay.
Yes, sorry about that. I muted myself because I wanted to be sure to hear all that Lisa had to say. So what I said was, wow, that is, that is awesome. You know, one, I will say this, I try to talk up Toastmasters, particularly Vision Masters, to folks that I see, especially those who have been part of Toastmasters before. And part of my what do you call that? Your minute speech, your elevator speech is you do not know Toastmasters. You may have been there 4 or 5 X number of years ago. This is not your Toastmasters, not even your uncle's Toastmasters. This is something new. When Lisa was talking about PR, then she mentioned podcast and cam, and I was like, oh my goodness, boy, we are 21st century. You know, because everybody's got a podcast, and it's more than just buying a mic and sitting in front of the computer and saying something. You have to have something to say and a way to say that. So I'm impressed that this is part of the PR piece of the district. And thank you also, Lisa, for saying that our district, which I'll be honest here, my nativity, I thought that, oh yeah, District 57, we are it, but apparently we are the kids at the end of the bench. So we'll be changing that. Thank you, Dee Marie. Thank you, Lisa. And I'm sure that as you settle into your positions, we will be doing, as they say in the movies, great things.
So one of the things that Sally would like to see happen is that every meeting has a summary, and that those summaries are going to be sent to Lee Vaughn, as well as to all the email contacts you have for your club. So it's very important that it not just be a recording, but that it be a written email that goes out to your members, and please include me and/or Lee Vaughn. We can get you that address. He is the editor-in-chief of the newsletter. So Sally wants this to happen for every meeting from every club. And that's something she's going to be pushing, and I'm going to be pushing on her behalf. So that came down from the incoming director, that we really need your club to be able to participate in doing this. And if you need an example, we had a fabulous person that did it for my club last year. And it's very important that the speeches, the table topics, the people who really rose to the occasion are in fact recognized by the district as doing these amazing things, because otherwise, how are you going to attract people to your club, and how are they going to know that Vision Masters even exists? So
Excellent.
that's something that you can do as a club each meeting in order to move the visibility forward.
Wow.
One of the other things that we're going to do, Kawaza, is there will be a 15 to 30-minute snippet on YouTube that you can actually have your guests or anticipated members to look at a particular podcast episode that will address membership or will say something about Toastmasters that they may not have thought about. And if they can just conveniently go to YouTube and view that episode, that's huge. And we're going to be doing that as well.
Wow. Awesome sauce. This is great. And just the conversation about this, to me, it's a step up quantum leap from how people have in their mind, oh, Toastmasters, you get up and you're talking to them. Well, no, it's more than that. You know, I mentioned the pathways. I said, oh, there's pathways on humor, there's pathways on doing presentations, which everybody, if you are over the age of 12 and you are doing anything in the world, either for a company, corporation, or as an entrepreneur, you have to know how to do a presentation.
You know, that's interesting that you pick the age of 12, because in teaching nursery school, we always, and I had kids that didn't speak that I was teaching nursery school to, as a speech pathologist. We always had them do show and tell. And show and tell is one of the earliest forms of a presentation. So it doesn't start at 12. It starts from the time that they're showing and telling their peers about whatever it is that they brought into school that day. Don't go there, DeMarie. I heard that dirty mind of yours.
Great. Well, this is excellent. And as this gets worked out and fleshed out, I'm sure we'll be
With little kids playing show and tell behind the house in the woods. I knew you were thinking that. But yeah,
Oh
I'm thinking
No,
more about a toy
I
that they brought in.
absolutely was not. Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for tonight's meeting. Very much appreciated. Sandra, I want to thank you for stepping up and being our timer. And even though there was a little technological glitches there, you handled that quite well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike, for being our general evaluator. And thank you, Hank, for the insightful, interesting table topics questions. So everyone,
Thanks, everybody. Good night. I will be seeing you next time.
we'll see you next time. And
Yes.
everybody have a great evening and a great weekend.
Okay, have a good night. Yeah, take care.
Okay.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Hank.
Oh, I'll stop the recording now.